Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and today we're going to be talking about all of the Select Quest units. We're going to talk about which ones are worth the investment, which ones are going to pay dividends, which ones are really going to give back given all of the investment that you have to put into MR units in order to actually get them. We're also going to talk about what they're going to get in the future, what kind of power level buffs they're going to receive. Let's go ahead and dig in. So the first unit that we're going to talk about is Moraga, and Moraga, in my opinion, is probably the best Select Quest unit. There's a couple of reasons that I think this. One, I think his TMR is really good, and I think if you have utilized Axe units, particularly before some of the Axe weapons actually came out, Moraga's TMR was actually the best Axe weapon that a unit could use. Especially with the initial AP up that is on it, it really gave a solid buff, particularly a while ago, to a lot, Summer Kilfei, or even Moraga himself if you were using, even Durando, if you were using Durando for any of the Select Quests, it really helped. So now with TMR augmentation, I'm sure you can make his Axe into a monstrosity for an Axe user, but honestly, I don't think most of us are going to be investing in Moraga's Axe, but it is still really good to slam on a unit, and it's one of those few TMR weapons that I've actually utilized in its raw state. Moraga as a unit, though, is going to have access to Sub Paladin and Sub Ninja. That means he's going to have a couple of versatile options that are really going to work out for you. He's going to have access to Immortal Spirit because he has access to Sub Paladin. He has access to a 3x hit because he has access to Dream Within a Dream from Sub Ninja. Important to note as well, a lot of the times when you get these multi-hit abilities, you really have to clarify, can they actually hit the opponent? Is there going to be range? Is range going to be an issue? And the fact that Moraga has access to Shikuchi in his passives to increase his movement, it puts him in a really weird situation where he's one of these few tank-like brawler characters that has really high movement and has that multi-hit ability. He's just really overall going to be able to take hits and deal damage. It's almost like if Dwayne had like a 3-hit ability. I know he has a 2-hit ability, but he has the capability to get in and close the distance between enemies. And if he can't, he can usually use one of his Axe-based abilities in his primary kit to hit cap damage on the opponent. So just overall, having access to those movement passives can be really useful for him. He also has a choice, depending on what ability he wants to use. He can buff his defense penetration, or he can buff his slash resistance penetration, which can be really good. He also, when you get his equipment when he's fully leveled, he does also get access to being a tank. So the helmet that you get, which comes with slash resistance and it comes with native hate for Moraga, is really powerful, and it's really great for him. And it just turns him into a unit that I think a lot of people underestimate. I'll give you a great example. I've been running my lightning composition quite frequently lately. That would be like Esther, Cloud, and Ibarra. And, I've been crushing a lot of Earth compositions. I think, Earth compositions are really struggling right now. And I see a lot of these Earth compositions in Guild Battle where they try to like bait with Celeste, or they bait with the Asterius, and then they do 2 Earth units like Noctis and Oberon. I honestly think they would be better off just putting in Moraga instead of Noctis or Oberon, because Moraga is so tanky. He's going to be able to take on these other units, and one of the only units that actually kills my lightning composition is actually a fully decked out Moraga. So I can fully endorse Moraga. I think he's very powerful. Mostly he's going to be powerful for his PvE and the capability to chain Earth Slash. I think he's going to be rated lower on JP tier lists as well, because they didn't have GL Zazan for a long time. They do, of course, have him now, but he's really what's going to help make Earth Slash very viable in a PvE capacity as well. Rafale is a very cool unit. She has access to a lot of PvE support abilities, and that's great because when you consider ice and you're thinking about slash, you're thinking about ice slash, you're thinking about Gilgamesh, you're thinking about Laswell, right? Laswell can lower ice resistance, Gilgamesh can lower slash resistance. Rafale is going to come in there, and she's going to be I wouldn't call her the Venera of ice. She definitely has evasion. She can definitely lower defense, but she can also lower area of effect resistance. She's going to have some native penetration for defense pen that'll be really good. But she also has access to missile secondary abilities, which will be important as we do have Eliza coming out in the future. You may see an ice missile based composition with Rafale in it in the future, because you know she does have access to that dispel spread. So I think she's a unit that we don't see very much, but we may see a little bit, particularly when Eliza comes out. I think in a PvE capacity as well, she's very powerful. Whether she's put in a Rainbow Slash formation because she can lower AoE and defense, or if it's just a mono Ice Slash composition, I think she's one of the best units in the select quest, and I think she can really bring things to that specific composition. Coming into the next 4 units, we're going to talk about Raychess, Minwu, Camilo, and Gargas. I kind of classified all these units as yellow because it's really hard for me to quantify kind of which unit is going to be better than the other units, because of course a lot of people have different compositions, they have different uses, but I put them in the best order that I think they deserve to go in. Gargas is at the bottom, but I'm gonna be honest, I love Gargas. If there was a select quest unit I actually use the most, it would be Gargas, just for farming. And I mean, that's all he's pretty much good for. But let's talk about Raychess here. Raychess is really interesting because of course we're seeing Raychess being used right now in a lot of raid formations, particularly because we have Astrius coming out. And I would say this is the first time we've actually seen Raychess being utilized in PvE compositions. So I would say she definitely has some uses, particularly in raid in this situation. People are using her for her agility break. She also has a 2x hit, which if she critical hits will restore AP. She also has penetration in her kit. Interestingly though, she does need to have spirit penetration because she is a magic based unit. So there is some conflicting synergy with her. And this is one of the things that I struggled with in pairing her with Astrius and pairing her with other water slash units, is that she is a magic based damage dealing unit, very similar to Varouche, or very similar to like Ramza, right? It kind of like that Spellblade Samurai. And these types of units can be really complicated to build for people. They may not understand how to properly utilize the modifiers to make them work well. They may end up sticking vision cards that give like attack up, thinking that they're going to have attack modification abilities. So I think Raychess is definitely one of the more complex units to use out of all of the select quest units, but I think if you do know how to utilize her, she can be very powerful for you. She does technically have access to lower water resistance by 38, and I know a lot of people were upset that I didn't mention this in my water unit video, so I wanted to make sure to mention it here. Although trying to get her AI to use that water resistance down 38 on a consistent basis can be really difficult. And that's why I didn't mention it previously, is because her AI is going to prioritize the agility break, the CT restoration. She's just going to kind of be headed in that direction. And I'm pretty sure she does not have her ability out on JP yet. Important note with Rafale did get her, or sorry, her equipment. Rafale did just get her equipment on JP. And it gives defense penetration. It actually gives some pretty good stats. I was looking at all of the weapons before I started the video. But it gives her an additional defense penetration 20, evasion 15, decreased AP consumption, and it gives her slash attack 20. So her dagger is going to be so nice for her. It'll definitely be best in slot for Rafale, and that additional defense penetration will just make her that much more viable. Minwu, like if you're talking about select quest units and you're talking about viability and usefulness, Minwu is one of those units that when you don't need her, you don't need her, and when you need her, you're very happy you have her. You know, she is the fire element healer. She's a time mage. She has access to Esunaga. She has access to Quicken. She has really strong heals that also give buffs with her. She has Ultima, which as she should, because her name comes from the original Final Fantasy II Minwu, who of course chased the Ultima Tome. Ultima has on it magic resistance penetration and spirit penetration 40. She's just overall a very interesting unit. I've been in situations where she's really important, but a lot of times she can just be replaced with like an Ayaka. She could be replaced with Ayaka. She could be replaced with Yuna. She is a little tankier than them, but I think most players are not going to have to level Minwu. That being said, she does, because she has strong offensive ability as well as strong defensive ability and access to Quicken. I did want to rank her a little bit higher on the list because I do think, you know, in the era that we're in now, a lot of people don't have Yuna. A lot of people don't have Ayaka leveled. Right? If you have Ayaka leveled, you're likely an older player. If you have Yuna leveled, you probably played during Final Fantasy X. So I could see for a lot of players, Minwu being very good. I also think a lot of the fire MRs like Seymour and Adelard are really worth leveling. And really, if you have Seymour 120, Fire Select is really easy to kind of do. And then, of course, you can use Minwu. So I would definitely recommend, you know, she's going to be an easier pickup, I think, out of all of these Select Quest units. Camilo is interesting. We did get Camilo's piece of equipment, and let me actually just hop back to Minwu's equipment. I keep forgetting, I should have put an equipment slide on here, but Minwu's equipment is going to give her healing power 20, AoE resistance 10, an additional 10% agility, and 30% magic. So her her piece of equipment is going to be a really like monstrous piece of gear. It's going to be, of course, a rod, so keep that in mind. Camilo is interesting in that he's kind of a magic brawler tank that has access to multi-type abilities. He was really good when he first launched to actually counteract dark compositions. He doesn't have anything natively in his kit that would enable him to counter or build dark resistance. But the fact that he had access to magic barrier, the fact that he had barrier break, right? He had some defense penetration and he had access to striking, kind of put him in a position where he could actually be used in a light composition in PvP, actually against Black Rose Helena, of all things, surprisingly. So for a long time, he was utilized in my PvP composition. I think nowadays, his use has really waned off. I don't think you would be very successful using him at all. And because he doesn't offer that genuinely important like light slash to like a PvE capacity, he kind of suffers. Like you're not able to like when you're putting together a PvE composition, you don't think, oh, I'm going to put Camilo in because he doesn't have light slash. He's not going to be able to chain. So while he did have a little bit of a starring like role for a little bit in counteracting dark element compositions, I don't think he's going to be able to do that ever again because it was a very like specific time in the game. And I think he is a solid unit, but he's just never going to be a unit that can significantly carry, even with his piece of equipment. You know, I still find it hard finding a use for him. Gargas, on the other hand, I use in all of my compositions for farming. Gargas has really large AoEs. With his piece of gear, with his staff that you can get for him, he gets 50% cast time reduction, which is crazy because he has 200 cast time reduction in his kit, and then the staff gives him 300 cast time reduction. So if you don't know, cast time is broken down where you cast a spell at 1,000. So he has 500 cast time reduction essentially, which is a 50% cast time. He has access to 100% hit with his sub Kododama. He has a spirit penetration. He has AoE down 30 on the opponent. He's solely wind magic. What he does really good, and he's very fast actually. He can actually, you know, run around. And like I said, if there's a unit that I actually use the most, it is Gargas actually out of all the Select Quest units. Like I probably use Gargas the most, followed by Moraga. Right now I'm using Raychess a lot, but I haven't really found a, like I think Rafale's time is coming right now. And I haven't used her much, but I know she's going to be good. Like just looking at her kit and looking at her build, I know she will be good for the future. Laiga is an interesting kind of creature, and a lot of people actually wanted me to put Laiga on the bottom, but I'm going to put him at the second to bottom because I think, you know, when you're comparing Velnet and Laiga, Laiga actually has things that are useful. He can actually bring party synergy. He has a TMR that's relatively good. He has access to kind of be, you know, to deal damage, and he can chain and dark slash if he had to. So if you're like a newer player, You know, you can easily access Laiga with Shadowlink's 120. Shadowlinks can actually solo the mission all the way to get Laiga. So the fact that you can do that really makes Laiga potentially a really good, like, newer player unit. I'm going to be doing a run through with a new account, and that's actually something I want to test, is whether or not you can kind of build your free Shadowlinks to get Laiga right away as a new player. But his TMR has accuracy on it. It is a fist-based weapon. And with TMR augmentation, this can easily become one of the best fist striking-based weapons in the game. The other piece of equipment that he gets, which is not out on global yet, is going to give him luck 15%. It's going to be an accessory. It'll give him dark attack 15, decreased AP consumption by 20, and it'll give him missile resistance 10 as well, along with some evasion. You know, compared to Vellet, again, he does offer some party capacity support, so he will be able to lower defense by 30. He has some man-eater in him. He has up to 60 defense penetration, which is actually the most defense penetration out of all of the units for select quest units, which I think is important to note, because I've really been looking at how much defense penetration and penetration in general actually affects a unit's viability recently. I think also the fact that he has access to Dark Missile, you may be able to put together some shenanigans with Joker. I don't think it would ever be a meta-based composition, but it is going to be, you know, one of those things that you are able to do with him. I'm usually really hard on Vellet, and I know there's a lot of people who, you know, love Vellet as their waifu, and Vellet is their home screen unit. But what it really comes down to with Vellet is that she doesn't offer any party synergy, and she doesn't offer anything that she can kind of take on with the opponent. So, for example, Camilo at least has, you know, magic barrier, barrier break, defense penetration, striking, right? And while Vellet does have access to striking, you know, she doesn't have those barriers. She doesn't have barrier break. She doesn't have, you know, a larger amount of defense penetration. She only has 20 defense penetration. She can crit, but the fact that she can actually land critical hits is not special for her. She's a Lancer job, and the fact that she is a Lancer job, you know, all Lancer jobs are designed to land critical hits. So it's not something that's unique to her as a character. Her job level 25 ability is really weird. It's like a CT manipulation ability that buffs your ally, which isn't even that much. So there's just so little use for it. And she kind of only has like regular Dragoon based abilities or Lancer based abilities. She just doesn't kind of go the mile. I think, you know, if we wanted Vellet to be viable, I think one of the things they could do is maybe, you know, lower lightning resistance, or maybe, you know, give her somehow a lightning slashing based ability. Because right now, you know, even with the 9S spear, right, which gives lightning attack up, she's going to be struggling performing kind of any capacity. Now, one thing to consider is she does get a piece of gear, which is an accessory which increases defense penetration 20, so she would have a total of 40 defense pen. She gets 15 man-eater on physical attack. She gets defense debuff resistance 100, and this gear gives her single target resistance by 10. Kind of judging by the piece of gear, they want her to be this kind of like brawlery lightning spear unit, and it just seems like it never happens with her. It seems like it's never, like, she's just one of those units that I think is never going to really work out in any type of a composition. And that's just been my experience. Like, I've tried to make her work. I've tried to use her in different ways. And I've just been consistently disappointed and let down. And I think that's kind of just the story of Vellet's life. Trying to think here if there's anything else I want to recap in this video. I feel like just, you know, if there's one unit again that I think is the best, I think Gargas really, like, Gargas is the unit I use the most. Gargas is a unit that I love, but the community as a whole hasn't found to be popular or useful. And I think Moraga is, of course, deserving of the #1 position. You can make an argument for Raychess being, you know, a must-get unit for Select Quest. I think, you know, a lot of these units you could bump them up one tier or bump them down one tier. We really tried to just look at them with my personal experience, and I think a lot of people maybe looking at these units with a little bit of bias because they may be running like water compositions. So like Raychess is obviously going to be much more important for them, right? Or potentially they're a fire build, right? So, you know, and don't get me started on the ice simps out there, Bob. But yeah, I'm kind of interested to know what you guys think down in the comments below. And until then, guys, if you want to support me, you can use my affiliate link, dig.gs/coins. You can also use dig.gs/offer, and hopefully I'll see you guys on stream this weekend. So I'll catch you guys later.